Please note that this meeting is being recorded by the Town Council and, where possible, live streamed on YouTube. Please note that the recording device is sensitive and the live stream may be recorded by third parties. So do not say anything you do not want recorded. If necessary, I will direct all recording in the room and the live stream to be stopped. But generally, I want to avoid doing that, so we will normally record everything except any item taken in closed session. Members of the public may also make their own recordings, but must follow our rules for doing so, including stopping recording when requested. Whilst we do not accept anonymous speaking at the public forum, members of the public who wish to speak but do not want their name published must please indicate this before saying your piece. Thank you. Moving on to the agenda then, item 1 is apologies for absence.
Apologies from Councillor Luke.
And sorry, apologies from Councillor Mott. She's trying to get here, but it may be that she'll not manage to.
And Councillor Miller-Jones, was that mentioned?
She meant Councillor Jones to take them on. She hasn't got in touch with you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right. Item 2 is a declaration of interest and request for dispensation. For members to declare any interest they may have on items on the agenda and to agree any dispensations to say. Are there any dispensations? No, thank you. Item 3, meetings of the minute of the Town Council held on Monday the 15th of May 2023. To confirm the minutes of the Council meeting held on Monday the 15th of May 2023 as a correct record. So, what I propose of that? Proposed by Councillor Burns and seconded by Councillor Hannon. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. Item 4, to note progress of actions arising from the minutes not covered by this agenda.
I don't think there will be any, because it was not a meeting.
Okay. No, to the end meeting, thank you. Item 5 is reports from district county councillors on issues pertinent to Haverhill and the public forums. So 5A is the police reports.
Cheryl, unfortunately, has injured her foot, so it's off duty this year, so she was at the Armed Forces Day.
Thank you. 5B is county councillors. We've had Councillor Mason's report. Did you want to expand on that at all?
If you don't mind, there was an addendum this evening that I'd like to just briefly talk about, and 3 things that I've had quite a lot of representation, so I won't go through the whole report because it was quite a big one this month, but it is going to go on the public record and make available to anybody who wants to see it. So Haverhill New Recycling Centre, it is now starting. Obviously I'm going to keep an eye on the progress of that. It's something that I know the residents are really passionate about, and it's finally good news that they've actually started work on that. Stagecoach buses, the situation on Anne Suckling Road in particular meant that 6 buses were passing houses, very close to houses because of the proximity to the road. 6 buses an hour, because of course 3 were going in and 3 were going out. I had lots and lots of representation from residents, some pleading not to take the buses away, some pleading why on earth we've got buses. I visited nearly every house along Anne Suckling and Falklands, and the widespread opinion was that the bus service couldn't be taken away or shouldn't be taken away, but they wanted a reduction in the number of buses. I conferred with Councillor Thurman with regard to my position. I negotiated with Stagecoach, and instead of having 3 buses an hour, which is 6 for those particular residents, and of course the first bus was before 5 o'clock in the morning, which was causing quite a lot of concern amongst residents. Stagecoach have agreed with County and in negotiation with myself that no service will use the road before 6 AM. For 1 hour between 6 and 7, the service will be every 15 minutes. Between 7 and 9, just 2 buses an hour every 30 minutes, and then for the rest of the day till 2 o'clock, 1 bus an hour, and then from that point on till 5:30, a bus every 30 minutes. It marks a significant reduction. It also doesn't really take away people's access to buses, but actually it does make it a lot more manageable, particularly at the junction of Anne Suckling and Ratting Road, where there was a lot of concern where 2 buses were coming in at the same time, coming head to head with traffic. And as I say, I've conferred with Councillor Thurman, and I must say Stagecoach have been really positive and want to come and speak with the council, because they want to do a consultation regarding future bus services. And that's David Bowden, Business Development Director for Stagecoach, and I just wondered whether the council would be willing to invite him to a future council meeting so that he can answer questions and also talk about the proposed consultation. The other thing that I wanted to briefly mention was No Mow May. Lots of correspondence about that. I think I would recommend that the Environment and Sustainability Committee develop a position on that. I have my own particular thoughts, and I'm happy to speak at County and West Suffolk on No Mow May. And the cost of living crisis, a motion was passed at Suffolk County Council to try and do more to try and mitigate the effects and try and reach out to those people who aren't getting the support that they need. I would urge all members here to use the links to signpost to members of the community and spread awareness of the support that is available, because there are still too many people. I met with Henry at Reach. They are swamped, and VSOs across the county are under a lot of pressure, and whatever assistance we can give by signposting, I am sure would be very supported. I won't talk about the 10 million to fix residential roads. There will be something coming out to councillors, and I invite members to suggest which areas of Haverhill they would like prioritised. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cox.
Just looking at Joe's report, one of the things that and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make it clear, but it was just a concern, was the unadoption and adoption of roads. My concern was obviously that we have an issue in the town of potential private roads. Where do we stand with these roads? And actually it seems we've got so much development going on in the town, are we going to have a major problem in the future? And I feel it's something we perhaps need to look into further and question the county more about what is going to happen. I did send Joe an email about this, and one of the things that Joe said, there's a lot of legalities in this, and I can understand that. I'm not challenging anything Joe said, but more concerned that as we have had loads of development, and Handship Village roads were finished how many years ago? 10? You know, 20 years. And the fact that we still have an issue, that is a real concern.
Okay. Chair, can
Yeah.
I just quickly come back on that? I think that's right, and I think everybody should be sympathetic to those residents who have roads that are unadopted. The legal situation is particularly difficult because Suffolk County Council, as I put in the report, use very strict criteria by which they adopt the roads, and I urge members to read that section in particular. I think there potentially are some issues for the local plan and the planning authority in their discussion with Suffolk Highways when these estates are planned. And of course now we tend to have new estates being built that much of these soft landscapes and paths are not going to be adopted, and they're part of a maintenance programme that residents buy into. I think there are bigger discussions to be had both at West Suffolk Council and at Suffolk County Council, because I have sympathy for those residents affected, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks Joe for your report, very full and comprehensive. Just like I say, thank you for doing it. It seems like you're the only county councillor at the moment. We don't seem to get reports or see David or Mikey down, which is unfortunate. One of the things that came up at Overview and Scrutiny, Councillor Marks gave a presentation around health, scrutiny, etc. Was it was a big subject, childhood obesity. And at the end of the talk, and everyone in the room virtually unanimously said that, you know, the closure of 32 children's centres in Suffolk was a huge retrograde step. A huge retrograde step. One of those children's centres was in Haverhill, as you know. Yeah, we had one that served the north side of the town and one that served the south side of the town. Yeah, we lost the north side and one on the Chalks instead. All the councillors, including county councillors that were there at the meeting, said it was a, you know, it was a retrograde step, and it really does need changing. So, you know, loads of things, childhood obesity, you know, getting hold of young parents and children at an early stage to help them. You know, it's hard work to be a parent these days. Yeah, and it was noted that that was a huge problem. I just would like you, as a county councillor, to work with our other county councillors to see what can be done to get some of that provision back. That'd be really, really helpful. Thank you.
Briefly. Thank you, Councillor Brown. I'm a teacher. I care about children and
Yeah, exactly.
and you know, I like to think I've got very much community focus.
Yeah.
I echo your thoughts entirely. I've kind of picked up families and communities in opposition at West Suffolk Council, and it's quite interesting that there does seem to be an acknowledgement among officers that we need to do more for young people. The new administration of West Suffolk Council, it will be very interesting to see what ideas they come up with. I look forward to seeing those, and I'm more than happy to make representations at county.
Well,
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Councillor Burns.
Yeah, thank you, John, for your report. As Councillor Brown says, it's very comprehensive. So I'm looking at the thing down here. So, obviously, the recycling centre, you know, unfortunately, you know, it has taken 7 years to get to this position. Tony myself dealing with. Just to point out, the Erringhausen Way side of things, the under road sensors have been damaged, so the lights are now back on default of so many seconds on a direction. They're not actually sensing vehicles because they failed to put sensors back.
Is that reported to you, John?
They told me this, highways,
Right.
they told me that. Missing signs, obviously. Now, in terms of the unadopted, this has been going on for at least 10 years. Catkin Close, Kangle, Palm Road, Aragon Road at the time, and everything else. So it's not a new thing that suddenly come out of the blue. In terms of the Hampshire End side of things, there are currently 21 traffic lights minimum that are not working because nobody's willing to pay for them to be fixed.
Street.
21 street lights.
You said traffic.
You said traffic.
Oh, sorry.
I was wondering where they were.
Been a long day. The developer of that estate went bankrupt years ago. The new developer with the same name bought the assets but not the debts. 20 years ago, maybe. So they have no liability for doing anything. That's what we've been fighting against, unfortunately. Catkin was a same problem. The developer went bust as well. So just to point that out, that there may be a few problems. You mentioned about the road code. In terms of the stagecoach, you know, I think I had previously mentioned that we were talking about this prior COVID. About going up Ansakin Road, so it's not a new thing. It was always discussed that it would happen.
It was the frequency that was the issue.
Yeah, maybe, and at least we've got something. We haven't got the local hopper bus that we wanted, and I think that's still something that we should be looking into. But other than that, Joe, I thank you for your appreciate it.
I'll just ask a couple of things. Buses, was there ever mention of the actual number of buses that are coming in from Kevington area? Because we have a lot of people working in Haverhill that come from Kevington, and there's no buses. There's one in the morning, one in the evening. Was that ever part of the discussion?
It was purely about the service onto Boyton Hall. But again, I'd encourage the Mayor, Chair, to invite David Bowden to a future Town Council so that we can ask all of these questions and more.
Okay. And the road maintenance, we've got a company in town called Roadfill who use sort of alternative methods for filling potholes or whatever. I know the county have just taken out a new contract with a company, but it'd be interesting to see what this company can offer as a alternative to bitumen or whatever. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Briefly. It is likely, and in fact Councillor Burns mentioned this to me, that Milestone, the new company, are likely to 2P over many of the existing workers from Kia. That shouldn't necessarily be a problem. What we're looking for is a far better contract and a far better management system and service than what we have had from the contractors Kia. Yeah, but that won't start until October.
Last thing is the recent fire at the recycling centre didn't affect the progress of the new site there, did it? Do you know anything about that?
I haven't been given any information that it has, no. It is actually some distance from it.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Anybody else got any questions for Councillor Mason? Okay, so moving on, 5C then, the district councillors. Anybody like to?
Yeah, I'd just like to update on my report that I've sent in. Damien Parker, who's the parks officer, came back to me because I said that he hadn't come back to me. Only he's saying about the mound that I asked for in front of the cross because of the people parking on the verge and absolutely ruining it. He's saying now that various tests have to be done to the soil of any imported material to make sure it's clean, and currently have no resources to progress this currently, to do all the tests and what have you. So he's come up with an idea. We could consider planting a more dense woodland belt along the frontage, but that would be a winter project, assuming, and this is important, assuming we can get some funding for it. So it's all about funding again, I'm afraid. So that's the update. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So did you want to come?
Yeah. We're coming to
I know you're not district councillor now, but...
No. It's been worthwhile talking about the spoil that's coming off the 3G pitch they're currently digging out, as it's only up, 150 yards away. I don't see why they can't use that. We did the same thing on the recreation grounds.
Splash pads, yeah.
On a splash pad.
Yes, come back on that. I did ask for that, and they said that they're using it all for mounding all around where the school area, and particularly where it's all been done, I've noticed it today, an area where it's near to the houses as well, in Churchill Avenue.
Okay.
That's nice.
I fully support the project that you're engaged with there. I'm very pro biodiversity and projects that support biodiversity. If I can use some of my county councillor funding towards that, I'd be very happy to support it. And it would also help provide a solution to a problem that I know is affecting quite a lot of people. So there's an offer there.
Thank you very much for that.
Anybody else? Any reports? Moving on then. Item 5D is for members of the public to make statements or put questions at this time. So if anybody wants to speak, if they'd like to make themselves known and tell us their name, please, for the record.
Yes, I'm Mark Bowman, I'm a resident, Haverhill for 12 years now. I'm here as in my own individual capacity, but also I'm part of the steering committee for Mock-Up Acorn. Obviously we're in opposition to the development of the anaerobic digester just on the west side of town. I noticed in Joe's report there was something that we didn't go quite far down enough to see Joe's comments about that, but I did see Joe say, I'm definitely against this. I just think it's key for residents to let the council know the strength of feeling locally, and maybe some of the key points that are our biggest concerns that sometimes get a little bit overlooked, or perhaps conveniently overlooked by the developers and the landowners themselves. There's been lots of talk about traffic, there's been lots of talk about odour, There's been lots of talk about how it's going to improve employment in the area. We see all of those as somewhat disingenuous in many ways. Acorn, I should say, the planning application has been submitted. However, it's only just been submitted, so it's actually still in the validation process at county. So we haven't seen the detail of the application, so I can't talk in detail about the application, so I should caveat what I'm saying, in that things that have been said before may not be the same as things that come out in the application in the near future. We can see that probably within the next week or so. But yeah, so we do believe that a lot of what we've been told is a bit disingenuous. It's a bit, I would say, deliberately misleading, disingenuous, same thing. Convenient truths have been somewhat overlooked. I think that if you take just a good example, comments about the traffic, Acorn say that all traffic will be travelling west. Well, what traffic is that? Well, actually the gas tankers that are taking the methane away will be travelling west, because that's Milton Keynes direction. However, there was also an initial proposal by Acorn, comment by Acorn, about the fact that any traffic leaving the site would need to turn left, because turning right onto the A1307 will be completely a dangerous thing to do, particularly at times of heavy traffic. So they will turn east first. They'll travel only as far as the Spirit of Enterprise roundabout. They'll go around the Spirit of Enterprise roundabout and then head west. So the chances of many HGVs circumventing the Spirit of Enterprise roundabout and probably destroying it on a regular basis is actually quite high. It might seem like a minor thing, but roads come up often, the state of the roads come up often. This is only going to make matters worse, and particularly with the type of vehicles that they're talking about transporting. The other thing that we saw earlier on, I mean, don't forget this has been with us now since September of last year, so 9 months on, we're only just seeing the application. When they first started talking about the proposal, they put a scoping document in, they talked about the number of farm vehicles that would be moving, they talked about where the waste would be coming on, the amount of waste that they want to process. We don't understand where they're going to get that waste from. They talk about the number of vehicles that are going to be moving that waste, but we don't see that there's any way that they could have known that back in September, because they only had an agreement with one landowner, conveniently the Thurlow estate, who owns the land that they're going to develop, and they're only going to be responsible for maybe at the most 40% of the waste that this plant is going to process. They haven't said where the other 60% is coming from. They haven't talked about the area that's going to encompass. It could be coming from many, many miles away, because it's a particular type of crop that is going to be used and a particular type of manure that is going to be used in the process itself. They say it's not going to be food waste. They say it's not going to be manure, but in talking about manure, we know it's going to be chicken waste. It's going to be chicken feces. So if that's not manure, I don't know what is. And that will smell. And they've made comments about there being a lack of smell because of the type of product that they're going to actually process. It all smells. Chicken manure smells, silage smells, rotting grass smells, rotting maize smells. It's going to come in on farm vehicles. Probably a lot of the time it will be tractors, it will be on trailers behind tractors, or it will be open top wagons. It's a bulky material. Typically, what we're seeing, what they're saying, what they've said so far about the number of vehicle movements doesn't really stack up in terms of the tonnage of amount of waste that they plan to process. So there's a bit of a disconnect between what they claim they're going to do and what logic says they're going to do. And the same is also true of the actual site itself, in terms of how they're going to construct it, how much material they're going to need to construct it, how many vehicles they're going to need to use to construct it. It doesn't really, when you start to look at the numbers, it doesn't really add up. So we're very, very concerned as a group, and I know lots of residents, I've talked to many, many people, they don't see that the claims that Acorn are making really make a lot of sense when you start to look into it. And then you get to the rather, I don't know how we're supposed to see this as any kind of benefit to Haverhill as such. Where's the benefit to Haverhill? None of the products that they're going to be producing will ever come anywhere near Haverhill. The only product that we're always going to travel probably northwest, and it's going to go back to the Thurlow estate that we used there. Quite what the arrangement that they might have made is, who knows. But that's where the only kind of product that is going to be used locally is going to end up. As for employment, well, yeah, during construction there'll be no doubt there'll be lots of tradespeople that are going to be doing whatever work they're going to be doing. However, when the plant's finished, I don't even know how long that's going to take, but when the plant's finished, there's going to be a handful of people employed, nothing more than that. Now, we believe there's much more of a risk to employment being lost than there is to being gained. If we're going to gain 5, 6 jobs at most, the risk of that plant affecting the livelihoods and businesses that are resident in the epicentre, for starters, and in the areas around the Arboretum, particularly maybe the kindergarten school that's there, it's a massive risk to those businesses, and that risks closure of those businesses, and job losses far in excess of the 4 or 5 that we're going to get from a 24-hour operation, 24/7 operation that's producing methane. There are lots of other comments. I'm not the only one here who feels this way, I know, and I'd quite like to just garner any other support that might be available. But yeah, I mean, I can't cover every single aspect of this. We will do when we see the application. We'll be going into it in a lot more detail. There's going to be a community meeting on the 20th of July at the epicentre. We hope to follow that up fairly soon afterwards with another meeting probably here, because we do see that the focus is on the west and the north of Haverhill more than anything else, but this is something that will affect, without a shadow of a doubt, the whole town. Because a lot of the town, well, not everybody, but a lot of the town travel west often. If you're travelling west, you're going to be affected by it. And the other aspects of it, as I've just mentioned, it will have a very, very dramatic impact on the town. The access to the town is going to be compromised, not least to say that that's supposed to be the gateway to our town. It was supposed to be a very clear statement of intent by Haverhill to create a different impression of this town, and to allow something like this to happen is completely contrary to that, I feel, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree. So if there's any questions that I can answer, I'll do my best.
Is there anybody else in the public area who would like to speak first?
Yeah, I'll do a quick word. I'm Richard Haylock from Hampshire Hall. I'm a farmer. Just regarding the traffic movement, they said that there would be very little difference in the movement of farm vehicles, which I find that absolutely astounding, really, because at the moment the size of the plant is going to be around about 30 acres. Well, at the moment that's in with wheat. Well, wheat at 4 tonne an acre, that works out about 120 tonne they need to ship from that 30 acres. Well, this plant they're proposing is 100,000 tonne. So, and if we, on our farm's 500 acres, if we did 100 acres, which works with the rotation of the crops, you're looking at 100 tractors and trailers which will be going in to that plant. And that's just on a small farm. And that's just like 1,000 tonne, not 100,000 tonne. So you're going to get vehicles from all over the shop. Festies are going to put in 40 or 36%. So where's the rest going to come from? Not only that, they're on about coming in near the White Horse pub with their traffic. What happens when they do their rotation and put a couple of thousand acres up on the Berry Road? How are they going to then get onto the 1307? It's just ludicrous. You know, and they mentioned about the smell. Oh, they control the smell. Well, you know, we've had clamps up at our farm, and it absolutely reeks. And some farmers I know, it travels 4 to 5 miles of smell. Some people can't even have their windows open at night, or they're washing. They have to do their washing again because it stinks. And that's what we're up against. I have had a word with the Thurlow estate about it, and they just don't really want to know. And I've got some photographs here of the flooding, because we farmed that particular land for 20 years, from the Thurlow estate through Cleve Rollinson, which was a tenant of theirs. And I've got several pictures going, you know, back from December 22 till March 23, on 5 different occasions of it flooding. The biggest problem there is if they shut the sluice gates up near Bradham's, so it stops Haverhill getting flooded, like they did in 87 and 91, then that's big problems, because the water backs up down there. That will go up where their clamps are. The silage clamps are all full of muck. That will mix in with that, and then where's it going to go? It's going to come back down and straight through Haverhill. It's just unbelievable. All the land they've got, 17,000 acres, and they want to put it there. and that's why we feel so strong against it.
Thanks very much. Thank you. We don't generally sorry, someone else. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I'm Mark Wells. This is purely, I live on the Arboretum estate, which is on about 400 yards from where they're planning to build it. As the gentleman said, the aroma, you won't be able to do any washing, you won't be able to have any of your windows open at all, because it gets in your house, it will just smell. It's also, I like to add also the pub, the Flying Shuttle, that will also probably have to shut because their customers won't be able to sit outside. They won't want to eat, which a lot of their customers want to do. But also about health. You've got all these aerobics going into the air. My wife was asthmatic. There are a lot of people asthmatic, COPD sufferers, and things like that. So surely we have to think of that as well. So as the gentleman said, put it further away from the houses. I'm 400 yards away from it. Now that's going to smell. Yeah, and if at night, if they're flaring off, I'm going to hear that in the summer if you've got your windows open. So please think of the people. Their enjoyment of life is going to suffer quite badly. And I've got another thing as well, it's regarding safety. He was talking about employment, bringing in local traders. For a lot of those things, it's going to be ATEX rated. So they're going to have to bring in people who are trained to erect ATEX. No disrespect to people in Haverhill, but how many people are from this town who are ATEX rated and will be able to construct those silos?
I think that's actually quite a good example of the way that Acorn are saying something that sounds good to everybody, but actually will never come to pass.
Yeah.
Because they talk about local trades being used in that. I don't know. I'm not too sure quite how much of Haverhill got the most recent Acorn flyer. I'm not sure if it was targeted to the west of Haverhill, but we certainly all got them. But yeah, one of the points in there was, yeah, there's going to be local tradespeople who are being employed. However, easy to say that, and there might be one or two, but the majority of them are going to need to be skilled workers that are experienced in that type of construction. Again, it's the kind of statement that sounds good, but it's actually never going to come to pass.
Those houses they're building. Yeah, no, it's like Taylor, I don't know what they've got to say as well, because they're building these new houses, so that's 150 more houses, so 450 people are going to be affected. So, you know, the wind in the wrong direction. And also, I'm thinking of getting safety. If you go back to Haverhill Hempstead in the mid-2000s, you were talking about methane here. If it's not properly, if the safety regs aren't kept to, one leak, one spark, a lot of damage. Sorry,
Thanks very much. Thank you. Yeah. We've obviously got a limited time on this. 15 minutes it's supposed to be, so I'm going to take a couple of the comments from the councillors, and we'll have to move on. Okay. So.
Yeah, this has got to be very, very quick, Chair. It's just for information purposes, really. I don't know if you've noticed, but we've got a camera up there that's being recorded, and it will go on social media. And really, what you should be doing, just words of advice, is spreading that around.
Oh, we are.
Absolutely. Like,
absolutely.
When it comes online.
Yeah.
I don't know how soon it will be.
But even with work people who I work with doctors, a lot of people live in Haverhill, they didn't know anything about it.
Yeah. Because I must say, you've really put some very, very good points over, all of you. And that's much appreciated for us as well, because I didn't know a lot of what you just said. But also, I think that what I think was just mentioned about the westerly wind. In the UK, the main winds are westerly, and that will affect Haverhill. I don't know how far, but it will affect Haverhill.
There used to be a chicken farm in Rain. I lived in Braintree for a long time, and that was west of Braintree, and that's 3 miles away, and you could actually smell the chicken farm from there.
Thank you.
Sorry.
The other point. Thanks very much. Councillor Mason.
Yeah, just really quickly, thank you for such eloquent testimonies. I really, really appreciate you coming along today and sharing it. Very informative. It hasn't started validation yet. County are still asking questions of the developer. I've been receiving the word imminent for months now. And so it may not be this next week, it may take longer, but validation hasn't yet started. I am not on the planning committee at Suffolk County Council, as I have made my position clear that I'm not against anaerobic digesters. I'm against this particular one in this particular location. The proximity of farms close to the anaerobic digester is crucial. If you're having vehicles coming from a great big long distance away, providing material for that anaerobic digester, they are using diesel and it's not quite as green energy as they're purporting it to be. In the right location, supported by local farms, an anaerobic digester is an excellent solution. So I applaud what you're trying to do, and I will make representations at county, and I'm more than happy to come on the 20th. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Burns.
Yeah, very quickly again, I'm interested when the application comes through. You've spoken about methane. It's actually 12,000 tonne CO2 going to be generated as well, which has to be go back by road tanker. So there's another, you've got to think about that. And the Hall Road came up at our planning committee a few weeks back now, and that was objected to by the town council. The whole road from the pub, white horse, yeah, sorry, it's gone out of my mind again. You know, ridiculous that one is. Obviously all of this is in, well no, I'm going to say this, and I don't know whether you've actually checked this. It's primarily in Withersfield Parish, but according to the ward maps or the boundary maps, some of it may actually be in Cambridgeshire. So it's worthwhile talking to CAMS and see whether they be involved in
We've
this.
got open dialogue with Horsey and also Linton as well.
Well, not just Horsey, I'm talking about Cambridgeshire County Council.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, as you'll know, I've been following this from day one, and thank you very much for the update. It's always interesting to hear. And I'll definitely be at the meeting on the 20th of July. And I'd just like to thank you all for coming along and telling us, putting your views across. So thank you very much. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you really want to. You're equally welcome to leave.
Thank you.
Have a look at them afterwards. You can give them to India and you see.
Chair, I think we'll get another question.
Thanks, Mr. Glasgow.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, yeah. I beg your pardon. Are you here on a different issue?
I'm on a different issue.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't made aware of that. Sorry. Would you like to sort of tell us who you are and
well, I'm here in this performance, but they couldn't make it. We just wonder why the council wanted to buy it off the guy and then not have it.
Sorry, just a second. Excuse me.
There you go.
Excuse me.
Excuse me, sorry, someone's trying to speak.
We can't hear, sorry. Sorry, carry on.
Just wonder why the council bought it off someone to then not have it open for school hours, because then it's not fair on school children when they need to get a drink after school.
Okay. Thank you very much. We are actually going to be discussing this on the agenda later on, so if you want to hang around to hear the discussion, you're welcome. Okay? Thank you. Item 6 is the Mayor's report. Hopefully you've seen my report. If you have any questions after the statement, if not, we'll move on. Good, we're moving on. That's lovely. Item 7, One Haverhill Partnership. See report from the clerk.
One Haverhill Partnership actually meets on Thursday, so I'll have a report for July meeting.
Thank you very much.
Did you want to skip to the kiosk?
Right, what we're going to do is, with your permission, we're going to move the agenda around a little bit.
Chair, before you get on with the agenda, One Haverhill Partnership, could we sort of announce the members?
No, we'll do that later on.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just take out
What we can take next is item 8A, which is understanding order 7 to review the decision to amend the opening hours of the Splash Pad kiosk.
She had to leave.
Oh, okay.
What did she wrote? I mean, after we go and get them to them, we're actually discussing.
Councillor on.
So that's about the adoption of the community reports. It's not about this at all.
Okay.
That's why we're waiting, Chair, to ask. We didn't receive any of these reports until today, quite late on today. I think it's improper to expect us to discuss it when we haven't received the reports in sufficient time to study them.
Which reports are you talking about? The only thing that was sent out were minutes of the meetings. There were no reports sent out.
I've had 3 reports today, 2 planning ones and a energy and
No,
sustainability.
they're the minutes of meetings.
Okay. So I've raised that point now while it's quiet.
Although the minutes have been previously circulated to councillors for the planning ones. They've been circulated by the planning club. I apologise for the fact they were late. I thought I'd sent them last week, but I realised I hadn't.
Okay, so are you...
The point is made that we should be getting these the minutes.
So you would just make them up?
You would know.
Okay, thank you.
Apologies.
Okay, so it's item 8A1 then. To review the decision to amend the opening hours of the splash pad. Mr. Mason, I'll give up to this.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to try and zip on because I'm nervous of time and that this may take up quite a chunk, which I want to try and avoid. I'm a huge fan of the Splash Pad Cafe. Or is it the kiosk on the wreck? I think that's open for discussion, possibly as we proceed. Is it a commercial enterprise? A social enterprise? Commercial venture? I like the fact that the Town Council has a presence in the community, and this is a point of interaction. They talk about community connectors being people. They're also places, and I think as a Town Council, where we interact with the people, it's an opportunity for us to support community cohesion and for people to get together. And having a kiosk or cafe is definitely one way of doing that. As regards money, of course we increase the precept. We are very nervous about losing money, and I totally understand that. Nor necessarily when we took on this kiosk, should we necessarily run the same model as any previous owner or any future owner. Each new owner or tenant of the cafe or kiosk should decide and be free to decide their own level of service. But as regards data, as a teacher, I try and talk to the students about what's the story behind the data. What is the data telling us? Is it that people aren't buying? Is it that people aren't visiting the kiosk? Or actually is the kiosk underperforming? What are the reasons why perhaps it's underperforming? Maybe a quick analogy with buses. You imagine a bus operator having confusing timetables. Nice shiny bus, okay, but there are problems with the bus and it's irregular and there's no communication with the public. The bus operator decides to take that service away. Is it a fair, reasonable person that would say, oh well, because people weren't using it, that's the reason the bus service was taken away? Or would people perhaps say, well, that bus service was a little bit chaotic or unreliable, and so people didn't tend to use it because they went down there and it was shut because they never knew when the bus was going to arrive. I'm mixing my metaphors now, so I do apologise. And we live in a context where we're spending £15,000 on Halloween, £40,000 on Haverhill in the Park, the big day out. And how about the operating costs of the zone and the Town Council Cafe? You know, we're very much focused on this, but have, you know, maybe on another day a broader discussion about our entrepreneurial or commercial approach to some of the things that we do. Now, I do not disrespect the committee and the decision that they made, but I do think mistakes have been made, compounded by errors not to recognise and address certain issues. We should be able to hold a mirror up to ourselves, aim higher than we're currently doing, and that's okay. We are serving the people, not serving ourselves, and that includes the taxpayer. So I'd like to quickly sit through the slides. The first slide. is just to kind of evidence the point that I'm trying to make. That in terms of what people's perceptions are of the council, I've heard the phrase keyboard warriors. I've talked about the fact that not everybody on Facebook go to the cafe, but there is a perception, and this wasn't just approached to me by people who knew the previous tenants, or just people that go to Place Farm School with their children. This was from other people around the town, but they didn't seem to understand why a better service wasn't being provided. And I said, my approach, when I looked at the decisions of that committee, before reducing our level of service, could we have been more reflective on whether we were doing everything we could to promote and provide the best service and experience, considering what our base wants, customer base wants and expects, balanced against financial viability. I totally understand the idea of costs, but there is a bigger story than just the data alone. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the mishmash of what we've got. Now, I love the splash pad, and I've got to compliment Councillor Tony Brown for his involvement in making the splash pad happen. And it looks professional. We can see in the middle, the splash pad site is absolutely no nonsense, really clear. That's great. We've got a post on social media that says, the kiosk will be open as follows: Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, only during school term, every day during school holidays. And then it says kiosk opening time subject to change Monday to Saturday. Well, is that during the holiday period? It feels a little bit ambiguous. At the bottom are the opening hours that were on the glass window when you're at the hatch, and on the right is on a notice board, which is now on the glass, but that's only just appeared, around the side of the cafe. Not particularly visible. And also, what is it? Is it Kiosk on the Wreck? Is it the Splash Pad Cafe? We need one name, and we need to communicate that consistently. The commercial plan shouldn't just be about money coming across the till, it should be also about what we're communicating out to the community. Next slide, please. Okay, this isn't about selling chips. I'm not saying that we should sell chips or hot food in particular. I'm talking about how the menu that is on the glass window for some people isn't readable. Black writing on white paper for some people who have reading difficulties, that text is way too small. If we're going to have a cafe style approach, we don't necessarily have to have all those hot foods, although there are some people in the community that want that, but I understand the council's position, the health and safety, why we can't have certain items of cooking equipment in the Splash Pad Cafe.
Sorry to interrupt, Councillor Mason, the blue one,
Yeah.
where's that from?
It was an example of a Splash Pad Cafe that I found online.
Not for ours.
Not ours.
No, not at all. But what I'm saying is, the one on the right is ours, the one on the left is potentially more professional, more accessible. Ignore the items that are being sold. I'm talking about how we're communicating out in terms of quality to the community. Now bear in mind, we only offer a bacon roll and a sausage roll. Okay, now I know that vegetarians are way outnumbered by the meat eaters in the world, but one vegetarian item should at least be available there. Now, I don't feel it as a member, I feel we should dictate what should be on the menu. I was a little bit embarrassed that we're charging 20p for sauce on ice creams. I'm actually not quite sure how consistently that is being charged. I would much rather put 5p on the cost of a normal ice cream, and whether people have it or not, it's kind of built into that fact. It feels a little bit uncomfortable asking for 20p for a squirt, although I do appreciate the bottles are expensive. My main point is that is on the window of the kiosk, and when you go to the kiosk, you're under pressure. People with poor reading skills are going to struggle to make a decision of what they want with the great big queue behind them. We should have a much more professional menu so that people can feel confident about when they go to the hatch, they know what they want, and they can order it without fuss. Next slide, please. Okay, social media. I'm certainly not saying that we should sell cheesy chips. Absolutely not. It's the notion and it's the design of trying to promote people visiting the Splash Pad Cafe. Could we have a happy hour where between 4 and 5 You buy one slash you get one half price, let's say. I don't think as a councillor that's for me to decide, that's up to the officers who are running the cafe. But I think we should be trying to promote it and encouraging people to come along to the Splash Pad Cafe.
Yes. I mean, the argument is to amend the opening hours of Splash Pad. Is this?
Yes,
is this relevant?
Yeah, I believe it is absolutely relevant, and I'll come on to that if you don't mind.
If you don't.
Yeah. No. Okay. Well, I want to get through this nice and quickly. Next slide. Okay. So. Other splash pads. Now that is a much bigger cafe, and I recognise we are a kiosk, not necessarily a cafe. But I'm talking about promotion and how we promote the Splash Pad Cafe and our community presence and how we're reaching out. Abbeycroft did a lovely advert that was for children with disabilities, and again, it's not posted by a member; it's posted by the organisation, Abbeycroft Leisure. And so far, if we go to the next slide. We do it, Haverhill Town Club. There's the big day out. But you've got to go back to June 2022 for anything to do with the Splash Pad. And there's nothing to do with the Splash Pad Cafe. At all. Next slide, please. Okay, so in the meeting, John Burns, Councillor, the data he said the data shows that when the school shut, the sales went up. Councillor Tony Brown said, make sure we have a sign that makes patently obvious what time it is open. Councillor Paul Furman, it's not really advertised on social media. Councillor Tony Brown again, social media posts, let's have them encouraging people to please pop in and support. None of those comments were picked up and actioned in the meeting. Now the committee approved suggested opening times of Friday, Saturday and Sunday only during school term time and open for longer hours for events, bank holidays and holidays. There was no suggestion at all, or even consideration potentially of other models. Now I'm not necessarily saying that it's for me to say that the Splash Pad Cafe should be open 7 days a week, or even in the afternoons, 5 days during the work week. How about one? How about on a Wednesday afternoon, just 3 hours between 2:30, let's say, and 5:30? Is that going to really break the town council? And based upon the data, because the decision to close the Splash Pad Cafe was based upon data that I think is flawed, because I don't think it shows the commercial opportunity that Splash Pad Cafe has. There is no social media, there is no promotion, and what's worse is this decision was made and nobody was told about it. There was nothing on social media to tell people that it wasn't going to be open after Whitsun. And this is for about 7 Wednesdays, let's say, between Whitsun and the summer holidays. Just 7 Wednesdays for 3 hours between 2:30 and 5:30. Is that such a huge ask when we're spending £40,000 on the Haverhill Park, £15,000 on Halloween? But my point was, there wasn't consideration of any other model. And in fact, I don't believe there was consideration of what Councillor Brown said, or Councillor Furman, or what Councillor Brown said again. And in fact, Councillor John Burns says the data shows that when the schools shut, the sales went up. Next slide, please. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Paint stain on the floor. If you go to the Splash Pad Cafe, can you tell me where the opening times are? You actually have to walk around the corner, so anybody on the path can't see what time it's open. I'm just offering ideas for the Splash Pad Cafe. Opening times on the left, a new display board with a menu so that people aren't under pressure and it's readable and it's clear, so that when people do go to the hatch, they know what they want and they can feel confident asking that. Let's have a special offer page, a display board that promotes and encourages people to be, oh, they're doing a special offer, let's go down. And there is a wider discussion about healthy eating, but this ultimately is a cafe or a kiosk, and it sells what it sells. You know, we shouldn't necessarily feel guilty about what we're selling in terms of its contribution, let's say, to childhood obesity. If we're like that, then we shouldn't have maybe not taken it on. You know, is it a commercial enterprise, or is there social value in what we're actually also trying to achieve? I would like to see more healthy options. Why is Red Bull being served? Why are really high sugary drinks being served? So I totally agree. I think there's things we can do to do our bit to fight childhood obesity. But ultimately, it is a kiosk.
Can you sort of
next slide, please.
Hang on a bit.
Okay, so there's a lot there. I don't think it's beyond unreasonable. I don't think it's unreasonable to say why can't we have a Wednesday from 2:30 to 5:30? There's only 4 of them left before the end of term. Based on the poor advertising that we have done, the poor promotion, and the frustration and the confusion from residents about its opening times, I think not to do that would be to fly in the face of actually some mistakes that we've made. Let's have some A boards, display boards. Let's have the menus that I talked about. Let's have at least one vegetarian option. How about some benches and hold the parcels? I understand there could be health and safety there. They're heavy, putting them in. But again, let's somehow find a solution. Maybe not have loads, maybe have 2. Is it possible that other staff could deliver them on those hot days when it reaches a certain temperature? It doesn't have to be every day. But people do need shade, particularly on the hottest days. So you've seen those, and I know you've read them through. I'm willing to give locality funding, but to be honest, if this was another local organisation, I'd be asking, well, have you thought of doing this, and have you thought of doing that? Can you go to the next proposal, please? I think we need to be much more commercial. Why haven't we got a splash pad cafe and a splash pad page where we can promote, and then people can share, and we can give those notices and give confidence exactly when we're open. That's true for all of our commercial campaigns, the Splash Pad Cafe, Haverhill Arts Centre, the Zone, Clements Community Centre, all of them. Not done by members, done by officers, and then members we can share and we can celebrate and make use of this community facility. I'll stop it, but you can see my passion.
Yeah.
And I hope, sorry, but my final sentence is, I hope that we don't treat it like a bus service, and the community at least have felt heard by what I've said. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that Colin comes in here and...
I'm quite happy for councillors to speak. It's a council meeting.
No, she's already spoken. Sorry. Councillor Andre, sorry.
I've heard lots of words and I've heard lots of emotion. I've seen no figures, and when the responsible financial officer tells me it's not viable, it would be unwise not to follow his advice. There is no evidence in your presentation that there are enough people interested. It's all a few people on Facebook, and there's no indication at all of what the costs might be. And I'm sure you're a very good teacher, Councillor Blaisdell. You're not a very good businessman in my book.
4 Wednesdays.
Councillor Burns.
Yeah, I read this with interest. You know, at the end of the day, yes, we are a council, we are to provide a service, but equally, like the coffee bar behind you, we made changes to that because we were losing a ton of money. I do the statistics for this. I do them every Sunday for the town clerk. I analyse it down to the nth degree. Yes, we're opening only on those days, but equally I have got data going back to March or April 2022, so where we were open for a lot longer periods. But the gross profit, for example, on a Friday, when kids might be coming out, is not that great. So, for example, the gross profit, and I mean by gross profit excluding VAT, that's excluding VAT, that doesn't cover the cost of wages, it doesn't it covers the cost of wages, but it doesn't cover the cost of the items themselves. So if you're selling a can of Coke, you know, you obviously have to pay for the Coke itself. So, for example, last Friday, the whole day on the Friday, it made £58 gross after salaries. So if you start taking the cost of that, you at least 50% of that, so you're down to about £25, maybe £30 maximum net profit. That is unsustainable on a business where you've just got maintenance costs on top of that, you've got all the other costs. And equally, we study the number of people who are around at school time. I did say last time that the income goes up, but it's a very quick spike. People come out of school, they might go and buy something primarily from Place Farm, but equally from Sandward or Castle Manor or wherever like that. But they're not there all the time. The other problem I have is we can't predict what the weather's like. There's quite often times that the kiosk actually, and I call it kiosk, and as far as I'm concerned, it's a kiosk, it's certainly not a cafe. What you get is the thing that we actually shut at lunchtime, maybe a couple of hours after we've opened, because it's raining and the temperature's dropped and people don't want to be there. The splash pad's empty. You know, I can tell that from the statistics of the splash pad, how much water we've used on that particular day, versus, you know, the things. So, I fully understand that the thing, we are going to be opening for the full summer holidays, of course, coming up. The other problem I foresee is actually staffing, because our staff are scheduled, I believe, at least a month in advance. Duncan will probably correct me on that, but I think
quite right, we've already voted.
Yeah, we've already voted, so you can't suddenly find extra staff, which will increase our costs again. Because, you know, they're here, they're doing the box office, they're upstairs, they're at the Zone or wherever else they might be. So my personal view is I think we should just carry on as we were, plan to open in the summer months. You know, last year we had an extremely hot summer, as everyone remembers, but our take-ins were still pretty poor because nobody was using the splash pad, it was too hot. You know, it's a bit of a catch-22, unfortunately, on this. But that's my personal view. Thank you, Jane.
Councillor Crooks.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to concentrate on the hours more, Joe. Do you know what I mean? 80% of your presentation. I don't feel, as a councillor, it's my job to design posters or do menus or a presentation. I'm sure, you know, Colin can just quite easily say to me stuff, design some posters, sort out the conflicting posters we've got, and it can be sorted in a couple of hours. And I really don't feel that needed to come to full council. It's minutiae that can be sorted out by Colin within hours. As for the opening, I think it's going to be open for 6 weeks, you know, and after the 6 weeks, I think that'll be the time to have a review for next year. You know, have a quick review. You know, John does the figures do not lie, but there can be more potential, obviously. But I always think the Zone cafe and this coffee shop is more important than the kiosk on the Rec. But the majority of people who go to the Rec are not going there for the kiosk, they're going to enjoy the splash pad. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Brown.
Yes, thanks. To be fair, I mean, I think he has some, you know, did make some good points there around, you know, selling the offer and such like, Joe. You know, and hopefully council will take a lot of those ideas on board. You know, the awning over the entrance, things that brighten it up. You know, to make, if it was a business, you know, you would make it look as attractive as you could. And the idea of the umbrellas, if they can be brought in, I thought was, you know, a good idea. Yeah, and you know, menus and things like that. You know, I always try to look on the, you know, bright side of things and, you know, aspirational, etc., etc. So I think you made some very good points, and hopefully they can be taken on board. And it's not a political argument at all. If someone comes up with a good argument or a good idea, you know, let's take it on. But you know, the figures spoke for themselves at the time. I think Colin was saying around that the road has already been decided. You know, what I would like to do is potentially take, you know, in the future, coming up to summer holidays, is take some of your ideas forward, because there were some very good ideas, see how they pan out, over the summer, see if we can get some of those in there, get the footfall up, and hopefully, during the quieter times, you can get more people down there. And if that's the case, we can put more hours in. But that's how I feel, as it is at the moment. It hasn't got the footfall in those times, and unfortunately losing money. But there's some good ideas there. Hopefully we can take some of those on board and make it more attractive. Potentially change the menu a bit. Definitely, I'm 100% behind you on the signage and things like that. You've got to make something. It's a first impression, and it's a good point around what you said around having a menu away from the actual window of the kiosk, because people in the queue can sort of make their mind up until you get to the front of the queue and suddenly you've got that small menu in front of you. You've got to sort of, and some people's reading skills aren't 100%, so I think that's a very good point. So that's my points anyway.
Thank you. Councillor Smith?
Yeah, I more or less agree. More or less, agree with what Tony's just said about. I think there's some really good points in your presentation. I'd like to see things like perhaps more benches and more parasols as well, because people, when it is hot and the kiosk isn't open as well, I expect people, when I was younger and I would take kids out to the park, I would take nice box with some drinks and what have you in. And you obviously want to take some protection for the kids, but I think parasols there on the picnic tables will also provide some protection from the sun. So I think, general area and the advertising and everything else on social media can be improved. I would agree. I think it's too late to change anything that we're doing at the moment. And Councillor Crooks mentioned perhaps a review after the summer. We can look at the figures. So I don't think it's something that we won't revisit. But at the moment, that decision has been made. It's not viable as it stands at the moment, and I would, as I say, I would expect most parents to, if you're taking a child to a splash pad or a park, you'd go prepared, to be honest, and not expect somewhere to be open. That's my view.
I'm going to take Councillor Cox, Councillor Burns and Councillor Martin, and I'm going to come back to Councillor Mason before coming to Colin. Okay, so Councillor Cox.
I'm sort of new, so I'm catching up with lots of things and trying to make sense of a number of things, and it does seem as though there seems to be pros and cons on both sides. I don't know, and I'll probably more throw this at Colin to see whether there's any scope for compromise, between here and the end of the summer. There may not be, and I'm not going to hold you to account there at all. But I do think the fact is, as I look at it, is this a service or is it a commercial venture? And as we've taken over, my first thoughts are, and I can be shouted down, that it's a service. And it's not necessarily there to have to make money now. I'm aware of the fact that would then pose a burden on the taxpayer. But I think the points that sprung to mind when Joe was saying stuff is that, are we looking at this in the right way? If we're looking at it as a service, what are we doing to add to the service that isn't anything to do with a kiosk? Is it a base for other people to be there, provide other things that could go on when the splash park's open? Is there other entertainment that could be provided while that's going on? For me, I've been impressed with this town since I've lived here, the things that do get provided. I think the fact is, for me, looking at hours would be something that I would like to be reviewed, but probably the thing I support, it could be too late now, but certainly as, I'm trying to get the names right, is it Councillor Crooks has said, that probably too late, but to be reviewed in sort of September or so forth. If anything could be tried before then, just to give us an indication, would be great, but it may be too late. But I would generally support that we need to look at it, as it's something that I view, how are we going to be viewed as a town council for something where the building's there and it's shut most of the time. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it opens as a kiosk. Maybe there's other things it can be open for and providing some sort of service for. And I'm just throwing these ideas out there only on the basis of that I think it reflects poorly on us when something that is there and it's shut most of the time. We need to be creative. And I'll go what Councillor Andre did say. If it's a business, we don't want it to fail. But if it's not a business, how are we going to look at creating something that could be far greater than it currently is?
Thank you. Councillor Purvis.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Yeah. Just a couple of extra things I did write down and didn't mention is, for example, the menu system is computer generated from the till system. Prices regularly change. If you ended up with something that's manually designed, you've got to change it every time. It's on A3 paper. Actually, black on white actually is disabled friendly because it's contrasted. Staff have had 0 comments about the menu. There are multiple menus on this system on the screen. It's not just the one where you pay. There's also one on the other window as well. Yes, I understand what's being said about A-boards, but they get stolen. You know, if you have to leave them out, there is already an A-board there, which they do put out occasionally. Picnic tables and everything, I like the idea, but they're all owned by West Suffolk Council. They don't belong to the Town Council. The whole land around there is West Suffolk land. If West Suffolk want to put land in their pocket and put some nice sun things out there, great. And also refurbish what they've got there now as well. And you've got to remember also, there's far more people actually use the play park than the splash pad. So, you know, the splash pad is open 10 till 6 at the moment. That's automatic. There's nobody turns it on, turns it off. It's, you know, totally automatic thing. The only other thing I was going to say, there are vegetarian options. There's vegetarian sausage rolls. There's vegetarian Magnum, I think it is. Not what I'm sure what the difference between vegetarian Magnum and a normal one is, I don't know. But they keep trying out new things. Don't necessarily go on the menu, but people ask for them and we say, oh, we have got them. Sometimes they sit in the freezer for weeks because nobody ever asked for them. Now you could say, oh, we'll put them on the menu. Yeah, maybe. But equally...
Specials board.
Right?
So a specials board.
You could have a special, yeah.
No, they do have a sign-up.
So you do specials as well, yeah. But it's, you know, it's one of these things that not everybody, and when we've sold these things in the past, and, you know, I'm thinking about places like the Zone, it's surprising how many are not sold with really low figures. It's quite surprising. As I said, my biggest problem is able to get people to do it, because if you look at the figures, as I said, at school time on a Friday, and I'm going back to also the figures from last year, they do peak or whatever time schools come out, 3:30, whatever it is, but they drop off massive, and going to 5:30, there's, you know, people are at home having their tea by that time, so that's my big problem. Thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Having listened to Councillor Mason, there are things that you said that I agree with. I think the appearance of the kiosk leaves a lot to be desired. I think it's drab, it's dull. And my thought about this is you work in a school, in Necker School. You have a very good arts department in your school. Children have been encouraged before to provide, if you go up Strawberry Fields and on the side of the road, there are signs indicating about slowing down, doing all of those things. And I think that's something that perhaps children themselves could be encouraged to do, to provide something around that kiosk that will make it look less drab than it is. I think that was, for me, was quite an important point. You spoke about compromise, and I think the compromise will be at the end, the review at the end of the summer period. I think that wasn't something that we spoke about before, and I think that is something that we should pursue, is to have that review. And it's something that we have to always be mindful of our taxpayers and who's going to pay for any additional costs. But I do think that it needs, you spoke, Liz, about having parasols, and I think that's very important because we now know the dangers of sunlight and how that can reflect on young people's skin and skin cancer. And yes, I think there were some quite good points that you made, particularly, and I would like to think that maybe you would pursue with your arts department children doing something that would brighten up. It wouldn't cost money, but it would brighten up that whole area, make it look more inviting, perhaps, for other people to come along. That's what I have to say. I agree with most of what everybody else said as well.
So if there's no other councillor wants to speak, Councillor Clark.
The benches which are in the market square, which are owned by town council, not doing a lot, are they? They can be cheaper.
Because they're keeping it moved.
Exactly.
Right.
Because they were bought in the wrong place, where the wrong benches fall, you know, in the first place, trying to hear this one. But sure, they can be moved to the splash park and using the cafeteria area. 4 large benches there. On a business level, in my opinion, whether you don't know, it's never going to work, that splash park cafe, never going to work. It's out of the way, people who come down, I'll go down properly down there. People who go down there, they take the ice box, the cold drinks for the kids, things like that. And you're not going to especially travel from town on Sunday just down to splash park, cafe down a couple of cities and ride. Simple as that. That's my opinion, honestly, you know. If I had money to invest, well, I'll put in a duck.
I'll try and be quick. Just addressing a couple of things. The benches, Westford Council have already agreed to the idea that they would support those being updated and improved, even if it meant drilling some holes to take, provided it stays safe for use of parasol. But do need a rub down or replace. As I say, I was willing to give some money to this, but at the end of this, if there's no proposals, I don't have any faith in this council actually addressing some of the issues that I talked about in terms of promotion, because it was mentioned at the last leisure and community meeting. Let me say, by Councillor Brown, let's promote it and let's get the message out there. Nothing was done, and that's what I'm asking for. Is this conversation going to end without some commitment to actually doing some basic promotional things? Because on past history, looking at decisions and discussions that took place, nothing happened. Urlers. If you have urlers, it means that you struggle reading black text or white writing. That's why I suggest a coloured background. Also, the size of that text does make it difficult to read. Now, the font may be suitable to aid people with reading difficulty, but believe me, as a teacher, black text on white writing for some people is unreadable. In terms of the arts department, I love that idea. There's a conflict of interest about me in a school doing council business, and I would much prefer that the council and officers approached primary schools or secondary schools with that sort of approach. I don't think it I'll be slightly conflicted. I think possibly in terms of my role within the school and also as a councillor. But I fully support the notion, absolutely. I'm just disappointed that perhaps at the end of this discussion there are no possible outcomes that could be agreed. It's a shame.
One quick point.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, as one of the proposals, could we possibly set up a small group, focus group, just to concentrate on the splash pad, try and offer some ideas, take up some of Joe's ideas, and see what we can do. I know we don't have another talking shop. I'll be quite happy myself to give up some of my locality budget to help out down there. It is important, and if you've got some time, I don't mind drilling holes through, wood or where we've got the stuff to do it. Let's be positive. At the moment, I don't think we can increase the hours until we increase the offer. Let's get the people down there, then we can, and do that. But I'm quite willing to, try and help out and join a little group to, push things forward. Yeah.
So was that proposal?
Well, I don't know if Colin could.
But if you want to propose it, we'll get a second and then I'll bring Colin in too.
Yeah, I mean, second. Yeah.
Okay, so proposal to start forming a little working party.
Form working party. I think it's too late to change things at the moment because, as Colin said, the staff rota, everything's been. It's very close to the summer now. Let's, over the course of the summer, try and implement some of the ideas that Joe and others have put forward. And then at the end of the summer, as Councillor Crook said, let's have a review and see what goes on from there.
Happy.
Yeah, I second it. Yeah.
Colin, would you like to?
Okay, well, thank you all very much for that. That's been interesting. Thank you, Councillor Mason, for all the work you put into your presentation. Slightly disappointed that you didn't take on board any of my points that I privately raised with you this morning in respect of, for instance, when you talk about the menu, etc., that you were still promoting cheesy chips, despite the fact
I did explicitly say I didn't.
Okay, but you still were showing a menu with all sorts of cooked food, despite knowing full well why it's not possible to cook food.
I did explain that.
Yeah, come speak, I think.
So, a few points being made. It is a drab building. It's actually a toilet block, and the spare corner of it has been used as a kiosk for years and years and years. It was a drab green. We got permission from the owners, West Suffolk Council, to put the brighter blue on and the patterning and the signage. There's been no signage. That kiosk has never had any signage there ever until the council took over. So in terms of doing anything else to it, it isn't our building. We don't get to simply go and paint other people's buildings. We would have to work through and get permission from West Suffolk to do that. And I know for a fact, because we discussed painting the brickwork, that they did not want the brickwork painted. Because obviously over the years it begins to look drab again and somebody has to keep it up. If bricks are left as bricks, you don't have to maintain the surface. If you paint them, you do. But we painted two sides of it with a brighter blue, and we put the signage up. Yes, when the shutters are down for security, and yes, it does look a bit drab, but when it's opened up, there is signage. The sign was done immediately after the meeting, so I completely reject the suggestion that officers ignored everything that was said to them at Leisure and Community. In terms of promotion, yes, we'll certainly take back the stuff about more social media, but there has actually been a huge amount of social media. If you have signed up for Haverhill Town Council and Haverhill Arts Centre, then you've been being bombarded with social media from this council recently. So we are certainly very lively on social media. But what this comes down to at the end of the day is a council decision. And I think it was kind of boiled down very specifically. I think this actually Councillor Cox made the point, is the kiosk a public service or is it a commercial enterprise? And the question of should we make it a burden on the taxpayer? So what we're really saying is we know, and as I explained to Councillor Mason, we go with the data we know, not the data we'd like it to read, but how it actually reads, that if we open weekdays, and we opened every day in 2022, so we've got tons of data that show what people's actual buying behaviour is when they knew that the kiosk was open every day, and their actual buying behaviour is not what people are saying on Facebook. And no doubt there's plenty of people on Facebook who do buy stuff and who would buy stuff. We're not saying nobody will buy anything, but the numbers last year made it perfectly clear. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, those are the days we were not making any money at all. So if we are going to open for 3 hours, we have to employ staff for 4 hours because you have to get in, you have to switch everything on. The slushy machines and ice cream machines all have to cool the contents down to what they have to be. And at the end of the day, you have all the clear up that has to be done. So it would be expensive, and we know that we won't make any money. So the question is simply, what does the Town Council feel is a reasonable level of public subsidy for the slushes and the ice cream and the biscuits and the crisps that we might sell to a handful of people, because that is a handful. John's got the numbers, Councillor Burns, apologies. Councillor Burns has the numbers, so we know precisely how many people actually shop at that time. So should the taxpayer, say, go 50-50, so the little Johnny pays his £2 to slushy and the taxpayer pays £2 more? I haven't seen that argument set up by anyone. I've seen some councils have posted some stuff on social media, but it's been very one-sided. It's totally failed to ask people what they think is a reasonable tax subsidy for sweets. What should we, and I think we might get a very different debate if we did. But at the end of the day, if council wants us to open hours when we know we're going to make a loss, then I can arrange that. I can't arrange that in July because the rotors have been done. And the difficulty we have is that because it's a remote operation, we have to have 2 people. Previous operator perhaps didn't always have 2 people on every time, but that's down to them. For us, it would have to be at least 2 people on all the time. One of those people has to be over 18, has to be the shift supervisor. We can't just put a couple of kids in there. Now we have no shortage of the member of staff to work alongside the shift supervisor. We do have a shortage of shift supervisors. They are very difficult to recruit at the moment because practically every single cafe and outlet is competing. So we've managed to get hold of somebody who didn't even apply for that particular job but happened to have written it on their CV, so we managed to persuade them to actually come on board to do shift supervision cover, so that our shift supervisors, of which we only had 3, and we have 3 outlets. We have the cafe zone, the coffee bar here and the kiosk. There has to be a shift supervisor on every time they're open, and if you've only got 3, you can do the maths on that one. They will never have any time off. If they're ill, that particular facility would close, so you have to have spare capacity. So we would not be able to, because we contracted them, we would not be able to shift that around now. We're using them, we're deploying them. We have plans in place over the summer. So, you know, at the end of the day, I think, well, at one point, Councillor Burns mentioned that sales peaked last year when, just after school. They peaked from hardly anybody shopping at all in the hours directly before the schools broke up to a handful of people buying some stuff before. So this peak is not a golden opportunity to make money. How do we do this? Do you know the figures for this weekend? Sunday, I think £450 is taken.
We took Sunday. We took £375 gross.
Yeah.
That's before full wages and everything else like that. Saturday we took 230, and Friday we took 223.
Okay. So as you can see, these are busy times. It's not huge, but you know we can at least, we're probably washing our face overall. So as a service, it's still probably going to cost a taxpayer a tiny bit. But I guarantee you, if you extend the hours, you know, and we can extend hours certainly next year. This year's going to be difficult. But if we extend hours, then you just have to accept that it will mean coming off the precept. The people of Haverhill will have to put their hand in their pocket to do it. And we will do that. But back in January, this wasn't the flavour of the discussions when the budget was being set. I seem to recall the councillors being particularly keen that we watched the pennies. We made sure that we didn't make losses where we could avoid it. So that's the instruction your officers are following. We can follow different instructions, but don't complain to us if the outcome of those different instructions is that we make a bigger loss. That won't be the fault of council officers. That will be simply the guaranteed result of that sort of decision making. So finally, just in terms of a few points, as I did explain to Councillor Mason, as far as the awning is concerned, the awning was looked at last year. It's priced up. It's 3,000. Well, it was 3,200 last year, so it's probably gone up a little bit this year. We didn't put it in because we managed to get to the end of the year without it to try and avoid that extra expense. But it does help brighten the place up. It was interesting, the all blue and white stripe was very similar to the design I was after, although strangely, trying to find an awning with blue and white stripes is easier on the internet than it is from an installer, because there is a local installer. But we might still have to put one of those up because of the heat gain. It gets incredibly hot in the kiosk. And the sun blasts through the windows where they're selling, so an awning there might help, so that might be necessary. Parasols, they would be great. I think they would really jolly the place up enormously. All our staff the majority of staff who work there, and certainly some shifts will be exclusively women, and I know that they will struggle. Commercial parasols are a very different breed to the one you stick in your garden. We cannot afford for the wind to catch that and it stab somebody in the splash pad. We can't afford for it to be stolen. So it has to be extremely well fixed every single day, and I don't know where the other staff are going to come from to be able to do that every morning. So there's a lot of things that are aspirations. I disagree with not a single word as far as aspiration is concerned that Councillor Mason described, but the practicalities of it, there are technical practicalities, there's ownership practicalities, and at the end of the day, there's the cost. All of those things can be overcome. We need to build a bigger building to be able to increase the menu, because we can't fit the cooking equipment and all the ventilation stuff in this building that would be necessary. If people haven't visited the kiosk, please do go down and have a look inside, and the staff can explain the issues. But you know, it's what the council thinks is a good use of money. We can shave stuff off other budgets next year. And if that's what council wants to do, to put more onto this more investment, we can do that. It's down to the councillors at the end of the day.
Thank you. I think we've had a good discussion, and we've got a proposal here, so I'd like to put that vote. And the proposal is that we form a small working party to consider the way that the kiosk is run. Yes. Basically, sorry, not worded very well, but I'm sure you picked up earlier. So, all those in favour then? Any against? Let's go. Thank you. Sorry, the proposal.
No, who's going to do it?
Yes, that was my next question. So we have to decide now who would like to be on this working party. So, how many are we looking at, really? How many, what do we consider as
I think Joe should be on it if he can be. You got some good would you be willing to go on?
Yeah, I mean, my role tonight was to represent things that was said to me. And so, you know, a lot of this can be determined by officers. I mean, I'm happy to sit on the working party.
Do we think 4 is a priority one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're looking for Councillor Mason and Councillor Cox said they would be willing to. Councillor Berman.
No, I think officers should make the decisions. I don't think it should be us.
Okay. So, well, if we haven't got a full person, we'll have 3. We'll have 3. Okay. So it's Councillor Mason, Councillor Cox, Councillor Berman.
Excuse me, Joe, what about Councillor Greeny? Isn't he councillor for that area?
Yes.
Well, if he wants to come on to it, we can amend the numbers. It's not a problem.
Yeah, to be fair, like any meetings that councillors are involved to attend anyway.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Moving on.
At the end of the day, it's not about you know, we're having a go at any one officer or anything around that. It's just, you know, we're trying to look forward. That's it.
Surely we should be now taking reports as to whether we are reviewing the previous decision or otherwise.
I think the proposal was to review
the opening hours.
No, that wasn't the proposal. This was the discussion.
No, I know, but that's what is there. So surely we should be voting as to whether we're going to amend the opening hours or
No,
not.
that wasn't a proposal. This was just the discussion was about the open hours, but there wasn't a proposal to change the open hours.
Misunderstanding order. Okay, fine.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Davison. So the understanding Order 7, we have just reviewed the decision, and the conclusion by councillors is to form a working party. I think there was a general acceptance during the course of the discussion that we couldn't do anything in the time period left over anyway, so that was a bit of a moot point, and therefore they're looking to 2024. So I think they have, I think it's entirely in accordance with the agenda.
Okay.
Adoption of committee reports, 8A. Leisure and Community Report. Bearing in mind the note earlier from Councillor Andre about the minutes of 8A, the Leisure and Community adoption of the minutes of the committee meeting held on the 16th of May 2023. Proposer, Councillor Burns, seconder. Councillor Hanlon. All those in favour? That's carried. 8B, Planning and Working Party. Can we take these two together?
You can do.
Move the adoption of the minutes of the Planning Working Party meeting held on 22nd of May and the 6th of June 2023, and the recommendations contained therein. Proposer, Councillor Hanlon, seconder, Councillor Liz Smith. All those in favour? Carried. 8C, Energy and Sustainability Working Party, and to move the adoption of the minutes of the Working Party held on the 13th of June 2023, the recommendations. Proposed Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Burns. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. Item 9, financial matters. A, to authorise the following payment list. A proposer, Councillor Burns, seconder, Councillor Hanlon. All those in favour? Carried. Item 10, actions taken under delegated powers. There were none. Item 11, end of year accounts. A, significant events. To consider if any events occurred during 2022-23 financial year or after the year end have consequences or potential consequences on the authority's finances which need to be reflected in the statement of accounts. 1. To note the RFO advises no such events occurred. So it's just to note that one. 11B is a review of internal controls. 1. To consider a review of internal controls for the council. Attached. So.
Hopefully you've all read it, we don't need it. A review is simply, does anyone have any questions? Everyone happy? In that case, move on.
Anybody any questions? Everybody happy? Let's move on.
Okay.
11B2, consider the review of the audit, internal audits. It's the same. Has anybody got any questions? Thank you. Moving on. 3, to review the terms of reference, specification and effectiveness of the internal audit. Do we have any questions on that?
So the proposed and seconded for 11B. So.
For the whole lot,
yeah?
So we need a proposer then for the whole of 11B. Councillor Davison and seconder. Councillor Burns. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 11C, annual accounts and return. 1, adoption of annual accounts. 1, company expenditure. Anybody got any questions on the income and expenditure?
You can take C, or C, little I, you can take those two together.
And C2 then is the balance sheets. This is there. If there's got no questions, we'll need a proposer to accept those.
Can I just make a comment?
Yeah, sure.
Just on the, it just shows you how large we got. When I joined the council in '98, you're talking about 100, well, less than 100,000, maybe just. And it's a sort of £2 million business now, looking at that, which is incredible, absolutely incredible. Just wanted to say that.
So, would you like to propose that we accept those then?
Yes, I would.
Propose Councillor Hammond, seconder. Councillor Martin. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. 11C, II.
Yeah, so these will need to be done individually.
Okay. To approve sections 1 and 2 of the annual governance and accountability return for the year ending 31st of March 2023. 1, the annual governance statement. Anybody got any questions on that one? If not, have a proposer. Councillor Burns, seconder. Councillor Davison. All those in favour? Yeah. Okay. 2, accounting statements. Again, do we have any questions on that? No, so can I have a proposer? Councillor Smith, seconder. Councillor Cox. All those in favour? Carried. 3, earmark reserves as at 31st of March 2023.
Chair.
No, that's one, right.
Just my information really, because I think I understand it. It does look to me like there are 3 areas where we're holding more reserve than we're supposed to. And I refer you to 9002, the second one down. It's not to exceed £5,000 and it's actually £6,700. 9004 is similarly higher than the amount it should exceed. And 9027, which is a bit further down. Should we be doing something to reduce the values of the reserves, given that we're struggling to find money to do other things in the budget?
So 9002, I think I have to accept that's a fair point that has gone over. So we'll certainly apply that in the next year. Election reserve, technically it finished, but of course we're about to spend £40,000, so we're about to empty that one. That election reserve will undoubtedly drop below because the cost of the election will be 40,000.
Do we not then need to consider increasing the fund?
No, because we add 11,000 every year, and in the 4th year, so in this year, there will be another 11. So we'll start off with 11,000.
Thank you.
And so what was the other one? 9007?
9027.
9027. Reserve. That's empty.
It's not to exceed 15 grand, and it's 115 grand.
No, that was the expenditures that went through. It's zero, the green box at the end is 0.
Right. Okay, I've misread that.
Yeah. So what happens? That's the budgeted income, and then that's the actual expenditure. So the balance it was wiped out, and the shortfall came from general reserves.
Thank you.
Just mention, I didn't mention them primarily because I particularly knew about the election one. 9002, we're probably going to have some expenditure on the Arts Centre website required to be done.
Well, if it wipes it, then that's
So
great.
they wipe it, so just let you know. So.
Yeah. So I think Councillor Rondo's point is absolutely right, that they're not supposed to go over the ceilings, and we should have spotted that. So apologies for that. But yes, if it automatically comes down, the problem will disappear. But there is a budget as well, of course, each year. So if we spend less than the budget, then what we'll need to do is take some out of various general reserves.
Thank you. Okay, so no more questions on that one. Can I propose it? Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Hanlon. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Number 5 is the risk register. Sorry, I went to 4. I beg pardon. This is register number 4.
Big I'm going to do is get you better see this.
Looks like a smash cut, I mean. Sorry.
So that's the key thing, basically.
Okay, so Councillor Burns.
Yeah, I appreciate the way that public sector works in terms of no depreciation, basically, in things. But I did mention this last year about, I think it's probably about time we actually went round and checked the physical assets, like I did about, I don't know, 6-7 years ago now.
Yeah, you went round with Councillor McClatchy.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So what Councillor Burns is referring to is July is actually, this comes up, so the asset register always comes up in June, and a lot of parishes in July will choose a nice summer evening and around their village, but obviously you've got a longer journey, is actually wander around and look at the physical assets that are out and about. So go and actually have a look at the horse trough, go and have a look at our bus stops, look at our benches, etc. And actually see them, so you're satisfied about the condition that they're in. That's something for councillors to organise if they wanted to do that.
Okay. We'll talk about that side meeting then.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I have a proposer?
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Burns, seconder. Councillor Davison, all those in favour? That's carried. So definitely number 5, the risk register this time. Again, does anybody have any questions? No? Can I have a proposer? Accept these. Councillor Burns, seconder. Councillor Smith, all those in favour? Thank you very much. That's carried. Right, so 11D now. To confirm all relevant insurances are in place. To note that insurances were reviewed in November 22, C22/150B, and remain in place. So that's just a note. Okay. Item 12, membership committees. So, C matrix.
Thank you to Councillor Burns for preparing this.
So about colours.
So who wants to talk us through this then?
Well, basically, you know, I asked them what they wanted through the leader and everybody else, and I believe so. In terms of the 2 deletions, the Arts Centre Development Group was a group last met in probably 2019, I suspect, towards college, which was about the development of a new arts centre. And that was, you know, like 2 or 3 people on it, and my view is that I think we should all be involved in it. So I've suggested that it comes to full council, private session maybe, that's fine, to discuss what's being planned and what comments we have on anything. At the moment, Dan Schumann is working on stuff here, so that's why I said get rid of that. Xmas event planning was another one we set up probably about 17, 18, something like that, I'm going to say.
Afterwards, I couldn't even remember there being such a group.
Yeah, it was something that Nick, myself, and a couple of other people, is one of the things, like, for example, we got the fun fair moved to the market square, that sort of stuff, because of all the diesel fumes and that sort of stuff. But we now have the community working party, so that's just a duplicated effort, so I think that should be deleted. In terms of the other things, the Greens are people who want to be on that relevant committee. Obviously, the chair is ex officio for most of them anyway. The Browns are people, new councillors who have asked to go on those committees, and the Yellows are ones, odd ones that have said I don't want to be on those committees anymore, or working parties, whatever they might be. So down the bottom is the membership is across the top. The totals are down the bottom, and slightly below that is a. If you can scroll down a bit, Colin. Where we've got too many people in that working party or committee, wherever it might be. Now we can obviously change the number of people in that working party. But that's what I suggested. Well, it's based on what you told us, and I hope I collated it correctly, because I did go back and forth, so hopefully it's okay.
I'm happy to step down from Leisure and Community. If there's too many people in there, I have many commitments.
I can't see which one that is, sorry.
In the middle.
Oh, middle, sorry.
One with two.
I've got a big light in my eye, sorry. Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
I can still attend meetings, I just have voting rights.
Well, it doesn't stop you attending meetings.
Is there anybody else that's on committees that don't want to be on them, or not on committees that want to be considered for them, or is everybody else happy?
I'm on a community, but I do find it hard to come to work Tuesday nights. Well, I only missed a couple of last year, so I'll still stay there.
Yeah, one of the proposals, sorry if I may carry on, Chair. One of the things I did say was maybe we could move Leisure and Community to a Monday, because it's normally on a Tuesday. And if we have like a, I don't know, a community or civic event planning on a Monday, move that to the Tuesday. People like Councillor Firmicles can't get to that meeting because he's working.
Okay, so what is the normal day around meetings then, generally speaking?
Mondays and Tuesdays, depending on whether
West
Suffolk got a meeting in. Obviously, we have to try and fit all the meetings in the course of the year, but we can try and take that into account. It's difficult sometimes to juggle, and obviously West Suffolk actually put their meeting dates in very late, despite the fact it impacts loads of parish councils.
Yeah.
It'd be good actually if the new administration would request that West Suffolk set their meetings early to assist parish councils.
Yeah.
So is there any objections to having the majority of these meetings on a Monday? Because as we say, there may be other considerations. Is it awkward?
Yeah, Chair, because West Suffolk do hold a lot of their meetings on a Monday, don't they? I don't know if it's full council and you've got other small committees.
Generally Tuesday.
Yeah, generally, but we've had one already on a Monday. Last night.
Tuesday.
Was it?
I think it's only town council meetings generally on Monday evening. There might be early meetings during the day, like
There might be
4
other
o'clock,
meetings.
but not evening meetings. So, what's the appetite of the room then? Are we happy? Any objections to moving to Monday? Councillor Cook?
Oh, sorry, no, nothing to do with that.
No? So, I mean, at the moment, I would suggest that meetings that are planned over the next couple of weeks, we should keep where they are, because personally, I've already arranged my work schedules around.
That's
what
not
meetings-
actually an agenda item.
No,
It's
okay.
later in the year. you'll
Just
get
a
to it.
suggestion. Okay, thank you. Right, we'll ignore that then. Right, so is everybody happy with that? And is anybody like a proposal that we do that? Sorry, Councillor Cox.
It was just the fact that I seem to be the only person on the Youth and Advisory. Oh no, there's one other person, is it?
No.
So it's Mr Burns. And is that all we need on that committee? And it didn't appear on this list, so is it a slightly different committee? Because it's not appeared in the membership of committees.
It's in 14C. It's not, although I appreciate that Councillor Burns has added it to this one for convenience sake. It's an outside body.
So the committees then on item 12, A to J, can we take those as on block then?
Yeah.
So I've got a proposer. Councillor Martin and the seconder, Councillor Burns. All those in favour?
Brown.
Sorry, Brown. Yeah, all those in favour, sorry. Yes, carried, thank you. So next one to item 13, which is appointment of the chairs and vice chairs of the committees.
Well, unfortunately, we don't have anyone putting their name forward for appeals committee chair.
I thought I did. Oh no, not as a chair, sorry, just as a...
Big mechanical line, is
I
that
think it's got too late.
Yeah. Is that a volunteer? Team over there. So we've got Councillor Cox, Councillor Davies, Councillor
Margaret, Joe, and Daniel.
Would you like to do it?
Well, thank you very much. Yes,
Proposers, not proposers.
Do it all in one go.
Right, okay.
So we need a vice chair.
Vice chair, okay. Councillor Cox. So we've got proposal then that Councillor Davies is chair, Councillor Cox is the vice chair.
Do you want to just run through the whole list? We'll do the whole list.
Yeah, okay. Energy and Sustainability Committee.
We have that. That's Burns and Lucarini, the two councillors.
Okay. Did that need changing at all? Anybody? Open happy with that? Yeah.
It was a struggle to get those, but yeah.
Finance Committee then.
Historically, it would normally be the mayor actually chairs that, although I know you've chaired it.
Yeah. I don't want to do it.
The mayor doesn't have to chair it, but...
Okay. Well, I don't mind doing it if nobody else wants to do it. We have a vice chair then.
Who's on finance?
So we've got Councillor Andre, Brown. Oh no,
I'll go with that.
yeah. We've got volunteer there, Councillor Andre, vice chair on Finance Committee. Thank you.
Culture and Community, you've got chair, Councillor Burns, vice chair, yourself.
Happy with that, everybody? Yeah, okay. Civil Events Working Party
so we don't have, for that or the community event, we don't have any chairs or vice chairs nominated.
Any nomination for the chair of the Civic Events Working Party?
You're looking at me again?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm quite happy to do it, because it's part of this committee anyway.
Okay. Vice chair?
I'm vice chairman.
Yes. Okay. Councillor Cox. Community Events Working Party. Councillor Burns, would you like to do that again?
I can do it for them too.
Yeah.
I'm not grabbing everything on this, but you know, people want to do.
Vice chair? Would you like to be vice chair on it?
Anybody?
Oh no, something there. You want it, yeah? Yeah. Councillor Davison. Personnel Committee. We got
Councillor Smith.
There's no vice chair at the moment.
we know vice chair. We
See who's on it.
it's
Councillor Andre, Councillor Burns, Councillor no, I'm going to work this out. Councillor Andre, Councillor Burns, Councillor Lucarini, Councillor Page, and Councillor Smith, as well as Councillor Smith.
Who needs to be vice chair?
Chairs.
Who will be vice chair?
Just the first two.
Well, that's still
Yeah.
vice chair and appeals.
Take over when the chair goes.
Yeah.
Councillor
I'd like to go to a few meetings first and see.
Well, he doesn't do anything really.
The last one.
I mean, normally lives one, so.
Okay, we've reached out to our limits on the standing orders, so we need to suspend the standing orders
3W.
so that we can, what's it?
3W.
3W, so we can carry on the meeting. So proposal Councillor Burns, second to Councillor Clayton. Those in favour? It's carried, thank you. So H then is the Planning Committee.
Who's
Sorry,
the chair?
chair was vice chair was Councillor Page, wasn't it?
Good morning.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought
Just bizarre.
Planning committee then, we've got
Councillor Brown as vice chair and Councillor Hannon as chair.
so I think we did already decided this in planning committee.
As was only recommendation, it's full council gets this.
Okay, right. So the recommendation from the planning committee was that Councillor Hannon is the chair and Councillor Brown is the vice chair. Any objections to that? No.
And there's a whole lot on this.
There we go. So the whole of 13A through to H. A proposal for that, please. So that's Councillor Martin, and seconded Councillor Brown, and all those in favour. That's carried. Thank you very much. 14. Appointment to outside bodies. Do we have any?
I think Councillor Hannon has been communicating on this with...
Yeah, one Haverhill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I propose that we have one person from the Labour group, which will be including the mayor as ex officio, and that will be Quinn Cox. And I think Councillor Burns is proposing two for, well, I'll propose it. The independents are proposing two, and that is Councillor Burns and Councillor Davison. So that will be the four places that will be taken by the Haverhill Town Council, and I'm proposing that.
I suppose do we have a seconder? Councillor Burns. And all those in favour? That's carried, thank you. 14B is the Able Disability Forum. Do we generally have a representative on there? We haven't had one.
Councillor Smith is there.
I was, but unfortunately I've not been able to make the meeting, so...
So I missed it off there, sorry.
No, that's fine. I was that before, but I do get sent the minutes, not letting keep in touch with them. But I've not been able to make any meetings because they're daytime, so I'd rather not do it. So I think I'll let them down. If there's anyone else that wants to do that.
So,
yeah, it's not
Mary?
Yeah, Mary.
Councillor Martin has offered to take that role. Is there anybody else interested in that? No. If not, the proposer, Councillor Burns, the second Councillor Hannon. All those in favour? Thank you. It's carried. The last one is the YAG, Youth Advisory Group, which we've got Councillor Burns and Councillor Cox down for. So if we're happy with that, like proposer. Yeah. Councillor Berman, the second Councillor Cox. See you, sir. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Thank you very much. Right, we're getting there. Item 15, to receive urgent correspondence. Has there been any good?
Well, actually, there's been quite a lot this month. No,
right, you're fine. Right, item 16, the date of the next meeting, which is Monday the 17th of July 2023. And with that, I'd like to close the meeting. Sorry, that's just part of the meeting.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Oh, sorry.
Just like to say welcome back to Edel, 3 years. Well done, mate. Yeah, good night.
So I'd like to close the meeting. It's 21:06. Thank you very much for your attendance.